So I wanted to talk to you guys today about, Michael, Freddy, and Jason in 1989. Not necessarily reviewing these movies that they did, but stuff that I was thinking about that I found interesting. What's cool to me about the movies in 89, despite the obvious, probably a little bit of fatigue, maybe not so much with Halloween since there was a pretty sizable gap between, 3 and 4. All those three films, they've got these interesting, I would say, for maybe lack of a better term, foreign influence in them that makes them maybe not stand out, but I find really cool and interesting. For instance, probably maybe the most noticeable one would probably be Halloween 5. That film, and I got to give a lot of credit to this channel I found, Tabata Vision. This guy named Anthony Tabata, he made this really cool video about Halloween 5, and he was like, Halloween 5, as I've gotten older, I've noticed it to almost be like this art house type movie. It's very almost eccentric in its lighting and its visual appeal. And I maybe 10 years ago I would have been like, not really understood what he meant by that. But as I've gotten older and I've watched a lot of really Italian style horror films like Suspiria and Zombie, New York Ripper, Cat in the Brain, that kind of stuff, I really see what he meant by that. Like Halloween 5 does really have almost like this Italian giallo vibe to it to me, with the way the movie is lit, the way almost the translation of some of the characters too. Like I really feel, that kind of vibe from Loomis in that movie. Like that Dr. Loomis, it almost has this weird translation of this, foreign director, Othan and Gerard, giving Loomis the dialogue and style that he had. Like if you would take Halloween 5 and put an Italian score to it, it would blend, in my opinion, like really well. It would fit. I'd like to see somebody, do some kind of cut with the score from a Dario movie or something and put it together. I could see it fitting. That movie does have this weird, pseudo-American translation to it when I watch the film now. And I obviously got to say that comes a lot from the director. Obviously, he had some weird eccentricities with the weird horns and stuff with the cops. But Halloween 5, it is an interesting film to me now. I don't think it's a quote-unquote great Halloween movie. But at the same time, I really enjoy going to revisit that one because of the weirdness and the strange multi-flavor that film has, and just those eccentricities. It's a standout in its own right for that matter. So I've appreciated a lot of those elements, and that brings us next to 1989 with Freddy, the Dream Child. Now, again, this isn't a video where I'm saying, no, these are good movies, you need to give another shot, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure whether you liked it or not, a lot of people watch these films a lot just because they love the characters, but kind of the same thing. The interesting thing is where Nightmare 4 had, Rennie Harlan as the director, who's obviously not from America, but you would never guess that, in my opinion, because Rennie has got his finger on the pulse of like the American audience at the time, and I think it was pretty present in Nightmare 4. And obviously you would see a lot of these classics he would do later on, like he did Cliffhanger, and then he did Deep Blue Sea, and those just feel like these amazing pure USA type of movies, these action movies and these, cool, fun shark movies. They're so Americana. I would have never guessed Rennie did that, and him being from where he's from. But with Part 5 with Stephen Hopkins, you really feel with him, the director, that outside influence, I feel. And some of the score even, like when you see Freddy come to his full size in the movie in this like dark, eroded cathedral, there's this gothic score to it, and that felt very different from a lot of what we saw before. And the themes of the movie too, I think, actually aided with the outside influence that Steven gave to the film. So there's a really cool British vibe to The Dream Child that I appreciate a lot now. The dark themes, the cool shots with all the the mental patients in that asylum. That feels very stage-like and very it doesn't seem American to me. There's something about that. I don't know. So I feel those influences, those foreign influences as well. And one thing that's cool about that movie is, the Ray Harryhausen style of that film too, with all the stop motion and stuff that's in there. It's so noticeable in Part 5. So I think that having that British director was cool, and it gave that film, despite it being really rushed and despite it being not fleshed out totally with its story, those outside influences give it, in my opinion, a lot of cool merits that make that film different and a standout again in its own right. It's certainly got its own flavor. And the thing about Jason Takes Manhattan, really is just more so of the foreign location. I mean, 7 films, it's always been this camp, and here we are in New York. And, it's always fun when you binge the Friday movies. Let's say if it's a Friday the 13th on a Friday, sometimes I'll binge all the movies from Friday to Sunday, and I'll do a few a day and I'll finish the Paramount 8. And it's always fun when you get to 8, whether you like the movie or not. I do think it's cool that you get this different location, and that's what I consider to be like the foreign influence in Part 8. Not necessarily the director or anything. Rob Heaton's, a USA guy, but like just the foreign location. So the cool thing about those big slasher icons is in 1989, those 3 films have these different layers to them that you wouldn't necessarily see from the previous entries from those franchises. And it's just it's something to comment on. I just wanted to talk about it. What do you guys think when you look back at the big 3 in 1989 with those 3 movies? 89's an interesting year because those 3 movies, even though we're struggling with fatigue and burnout and just rushness from really all 3 of them, there's these interesting elements and these outside influences that give those 3 films some unique flavors. And I just thought it's worth commenting on. And maybe you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. But what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the big 3 in 1989 and those outside influences? What do you take away from those films that you like? And, maybe you don't think about that at all. But maybe I have bring this to your attention now, but it's not necessarily a review. I'm not saying this movie's good, this movie's bad, but just things that I'm noticing now that I think is really cool. And watching outside movies and watching Italian type movies and German movies or Asian movies, I see these other influences that directors may be influenced by, and they'll bring into their own filmmaking. And I think I can start to see influences come into films from directors and stuff like that, and it's just something worth commenting on. So I just wanted to do a video and talk about it. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below on the big 3 slashers in 1989. See you guys next time.